Morning, City fans. Nice morning for it, isn't it? Let's get the shades out and the hat out. No hay fever's playing me up there. Woke up with a blocked ear. That's not good. Anyway, here we are on another morning dog walk. It might be cut short this morning. We've got harvesting going on all around. There's all sorts of farming stuff going on here. And the track that I'm walking down at the minute is actually a private track. The farmer lets us walk down it, but it is actually a private track. So tractors come up and down it. There's cows in a field. If they're at one end, I don't have to put Charlie on the lead. If they're at this end, I do. So if we get interrupted, we get interrupted. Okay. A couple of good mornings. First of all, Will has corrected himself. Good morning, Will. Hope you're well, my friend. It's quite hard for me to see the screen today. Just glorious, glorious sunshine here. I'm trying to get the dog out nice and early, so I don't have to take him out later when the heat really rises. So anyway, hope you're all well this Friday. Getting a bit regular these dog walks at the minute. Morning to my good friend Pete. Usually my dog walk is either me filming myself talking about Lincoln City or me on the phone to Pete talking about all things Lincoln City and football related. And morning to Neil as well. It's a great look. It's not, the hat's pretty shabby. I actually got it at V98 this, so it's 22, 23 years old now. So anyway. Right, so yesterday the big news, Jack Payne left. I don't think anybody's really surprised. I really hoped that both Payne and Coker, and you know what's happening already, Charlie's disappeared. I really hoped that Payne and Coker would be given a chance this season, but that's not going to be the case, clearly. Payne's gone. Wouldn't surprise me now to see Coker following him out the door fairly soon. I think Ben probably wants to play football. There's clearly been some sort of, whether it's a personality clash, whether he's just not that type of player. Wouldn't surprise me if he wound up back at Southend, to be honest, but there we go. But anyway, Jack's left. He's gone to Swindon, another League One rival, so he's another player who's going to come back to Tinselbank with a point to prove next season. Senior pro, although he was only 25, so he's not actually that much older than George Grant. I think there's only a year in it, perhaps. But he didn't seem like that. Payne's played quite a bit of football around clubs like Blackburn, Huddersfield, Southend. Obviously, Bradford City. I think he had a loan spell at Oxford as well, if I remember correctly. Might be wrong with that. So ultimately, we've got rid of a player who I think many were excited by at the beginning of the last season. I raved about him, went over the top. As far as I could see, he was a player that was going to revolutionise our system. And I think for the first 10 or 15 games, probably 10 games he did. And then after that, I think he fell away. But he was a senior footballer. Now, I think with any departure at the moment, there is a worry, certainly from some supporters, that the basis of the team, the spine of the team's been taken apart, etc., etc. All I would say, and look, I'm a pessimist, and as the audience once sang, a pessimist is never disappointed. So I always tend to try and look at the negatives and then put a positive spin on them. Does that make sense? So I don't want to be outrightly negative for negative's sake. I also don't want to be a happy, clappy, always positive. I think I made that very clear when I talked about Bozzy leaving. I think I made it clear in a few of my other articles as well. As things stand at this moment in time, our squad is looking light, as is the squad of probably 95% of the other teams in League One and League Two. Apart from your Bristol Rovers and your Mansfields and teams like Shrewsbury that have got a majority of their players still under contract from last season, everybody's squad's light. People are not signing players at the moment. And a classic example of that is nearly all of the players yesterday that were moving clubs were former Lincoln players. Jake Caprice, Alex Woodyard, Jack Payne. There isn't the same number of transfers going through as usual. You know, on any given day on a June or July in a typical season, you can see 10 players maybe moving at a time. And at the moment, everyone moving was former Lincoln players, which maybe suggests that the players that we've had in the past were actually decent enough to command an early contract in this window. Now, I've seen the criticisms. Just quickly, we've got Andy Helge saying morning. So morning to you, my friend. Nick Oxbury's saying Jake Taylor, midfielder for Forest. We've got a few midfielders, but you never know. What I would want to say is, look, people are saying that, there's no spine there. And a friend of mine, Adam Barlow, on Twitter last night, certainly making the point that, every good, successful team tends to have that spine of an old head somewhere in the central midfield or the centre of defence. And we haven't got that at the moment. Granted, we haven't. But I think judging anything right now is very, very dangerous. It's almost like waiting for the 6 lottery numbers to come up and saying you haven't won when the first 2 have come up when there's still 4 to come. You don't know. You're halfway through. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, it's like playing Call of Duty, looking to get your kill streak, and when you're on 3, you kind of going, "Oh, I'm not going to get 6," even though there's another 20 minutes of your game left. I don't know if that's relevant. Here he is. Thank you, Adam. I did just reference you, my friend. You know, we're halfway through something. It's like watching a series. We're watching How to Get Away with Murder at the moment. It's like watching the first 10 episodes, turning it off and going, well, I don't know who the killer is. Of course you don't, because there's 5 episodes left. And at this moment in time, we've got 5-6 weeks before the season starts. There will be signings. We will bring players in. Michael alluded in an excellent interview with the boys from LSJ that he understands that you need experience. Michael's interpretation of experience and other people's interpretation of experience is very different. You know, he thinks experience is 200 plus games in the Football League, even if you're 24. Other people think experience is you have to be 30. But would you rather have a 30-year-old like Liam Bridcut, who's barely kicked a ball in, well, up until this season, you know, he'd struggled to kick a ball in 2 years, or would you rather pick a 24-year-old James Jones? Personally, I think a little bit of mixture of both, and I think Michael will be the same. But it was always made very, very clear to us that it was going to be young players who could develop at the beginning of the window. They were the ones. I don't, Mark, by the way, just a second. Sorry, I don't play COD at all. I made that up. I've actually been playing Far Cry 3, so I'm still in 2003. Yes, anyway, back on track. Michael was very, very clear that that players were going to be signed who were young early doors, the ones that were likely to make a profit in the future. And then he was going to look at the experience market once it had settled down. And if you look at a lot of the moves that are being made at the moment, I'm trying to get the sun right here, it's not the experienced players. Okay, Burton have gone in and pulled Erds and Bozzy out there, but there's an awful lot of young players making signings across, signing contracts across the Football League, whereas the more experienced players perhaps are not. Bolton have gone in quite hard, Bristol Rovers have gone in quite hard, but it's only the cash-rich teams that have gone in hard, and Burton, who aren't cash-rich. But, you know, you look at your Ipswiches, your Sunderlands, your Lincolns, your Shrewsburys, your pick a team, Rochdales, Wimbledon. You know, it's very rare to see 29, 30, 31, 32-year-old commanding a decent contract at this point in the window. Michael Appleton is not a fool. Okay, I know some people have judged him. Some people don't like the approach. Some people think that the heart's being ripped out of the team. But those people that are thinking that the heart has been ripped out of the team probably were the same people last year that were saying that, again, we were signing too many kind of fancy damn players. Or when, as I said in my article, when Hawkridge and Power left, that we weren't staying true to the players that had got us through from the conference. So I think it's particularly interesting, just to take. I think it's particularly useful, rather, just to take a second as fans, and I worry as well, but just to know that we will be making more signings. With Jack Payne going, that frees up some wages. Michael will have a player in mind. He's not now just going to sit down and go, right, I've got the money, who am I going to sign? It's not Football Manager. He's going to have scouted. He's going to likely have talked to players. I would fully expect that at some point in the next week or so, players will come in. They've got to. We're back in pre-season training. Michael is a manager who, you know, thrives on getting people on the training ground, on improving their game, on creating a team and a team spirit and a team unity. So he's going to want those new players to come in fairly quickly. So I think this morning's dog walk, and it is brief, although the cows have now moved, luckily, so Charlie should be fine. It was really just about, you know, I just urge settling down at the moment. You know, I always say, don't judge players before they've kicked the ball for us. And I know that 1 or 2 people yesterday were saying our signings have been underwhelming. How do we know? How do we know Lewis Monsma's underwhelming? How do we know he's not the next Pontus Jansson, who obviously came from abroad to Leeds and kind of pushed them up the Championship? How do we know that he's not the next Matt Clark, who was excellent for Portsmouth after being released by lower league club? How do we know that James Jones isn't going to do what players like Gareth Ainsworth have done, leaving us, going to a League One club, which is what we are. So he's left the League Two club, been promoted to League One. How do we know he's not suddenly going to be Championship quality in 6 months' time? You can't judge a player before he's kicked a ball. You can't judge a transfer policy before the transfer window is closed. I think we always learned that with Danny. And let's be fair, you know, the summer that we missed out on Simeon Akinola, that was a transfer window that certainly left us short, and the following window did as well up front. We were able to judge that. Last year's transfer window, aside from being left short up front again, you know, we signed some great players. Tyler Walker, for instance, George Grant, for instance, Jack Payne on paper raved about Jack Payne. And what did he actually deliver? 2 goals, maybe an assist, and a lot of broken promises. I think he'll be a success at Swindon, but that's just, I think he is a classic example of why you've got to wait until players are in, until we've played a few games. So now I'm just going to have a quick look through the I'm going to get into the shade and have a quick look through the questions before I sign off today. So what have we got? Adam Barlow, thank you very much. Yeah, they're nice. When I shave my head, I look a little bit like Charles Bronson. How many players do you think we will end up with? I thought had a 20ish, but a quick turnaround. The games might need more. I think Emma 21, potentially 22. The loan market's there. I think, we've promoted Sean Ruffin. I think Adebayo Smith part of the squad. So let's see. Neil Carton, Jez George will do the business. I've seen criticism of Jez on social media in the last 24 hours. It baffles me based on what Cambridge fans were saying. He's been with Lincoln a couple of years now and he's done nothing wrong whatsoever as far as I'm concerned. The academy is in great shape. We're attracting players over from Ireland, and Jez is instrumental in that. It baffles me. It really does. Helgi, who I know is a pessimist like me. Teams now have a non-league budget, perhaps why no one is signing. 100%. 100%. And that's why Jack Payne went for free. It's why Conor McGrandles came in for free. Teams don't have the budget, I'm afraid. I think that we will have a decent budget, but I don't think that we're going to be wasting it. Okay, look at the big spenders: Bolton, Mansfield, Bristol Rovers. Let me make a bold claim. One of those 3 might get promoted. But if all 3 got promoted, I'd be shocked. Blackpool are another that have been making lots of signings. 4 clubs, some of them paying fees for players. Others like Bolton, they're outspending. Ewan Doyle was wanted by Swindon and he stayed in League 2 to play for Bolton. He didn't do that for fun, did he? So Oz, this is an interesting question from Oz. Morning, May. Do you think there's something specific about Payne's game that MA doesn't like, or do you think it's more of a financial decision? I think it's about Payne's game, if I'm honest. I think with Jack, it was all promise and no payoff. He got on the ball, he looked great, he laid it about, but he was lightweight. He was ineffective from set pieces, which I think, I don't agree that you've got to be tall to be a footballer. Look at Dean Keats. I think if you're small, you've got to be rugged. And I don't think Jack was rugged either. I think he had too many shots with not enough goals as an outcome. I think he made too many passes with not enough assists as an outcome. I think when you look at games like Doncaster, where in the final minutes we're drawing 1-1 and he gives the ball away on the edge of his own area, I think that's the sort of thing that Michael can't stand to see. And I think he certainly suffered. You saw he came off at half-time against Sunderland when we were 3-1 down, or when we lost 3-0 rather, or 3-1 rather, even though it was the defence that really was at fault. He played in the Gillingham debacle, and I know he came on late against Southend, almost changed the game, but then wasn't liked after that. And I think he had motivation to play against Southend. I think he came on fired up, but I don't think he had the fire in his belly towards the end. I think that probably came from just a deterioration of the relationship. I also, if I'm honest, I think Michael wanted to put his own stamp on the team, and I think he wanted to keep the players like George Grant, who impressed and were able to adapt last season under him. But I think there was a number of players that Danny signed that he simply just wanted out of the door, and I think he was one of them. So quick morning to another good friend of mine, Dave Martin, and Daz Reed. Yeah, Pep Peterborough was the end for him. It was the start and the end, wasn't it? He came on, he gave the ball away. I don't think Michael is a forgiving man. Danny was a great man manager. We know that. He built players up. So was Peter Jackson. Peter Jackson was a great man manager and a shit manager. Danny was a good man manager and a good manager. I think Michael Appleton, in terms of man management, is literally take it or leave it. And when you look at Liam Bridcut, for instance, Liam Bridcut signed for us because of Michael. And he said everyone he spoke to had nothing but good things to say about Michael Appleton. And yet I can guarantee that there will be at least 2 players from last year's squad, Ben and Jack, who probably won't have that much good stuff to say about Michael. It's horses for courses. He's not a Michael player. Michael isn't Danny. He manages differently. It is a different style, believe it or not. I just think it's out with the old and in with the new. With any change, there's resistance. I resist it. I don't like to see Michael Bostwick in a Burton shirt. Neil Eardley, he's been a great player for us over the last couple of years, but Michael Appleton is a new era, and we have to embrace that whether we like it or not. And it's all right as passing judgment in what is halfway through pre-season, but who's to say by the end of the day we haven't signed 3-4 players? I mean, I don't think that will happen, but who's to say that suddenly 2 or 3 signings come in and everything changes again? Perceptions change again. So anyway, I've got a sneeze brewing. McGrandles, from what I've seen, can pass better than Payne. Brilliant. I've not seen, to be honest. I'm a little bit worried, actually, about Conor McGrandles. I can't get rid of that now. He actually looks to me like an extra from Harry Potter. He looks like one of the child wizards, that wasn't quite in Harry's group, but occasionally kind of popped up with a line or two. That's what he looks like to me. Probably a Hufflepuff, one of the that was the kind of sad sack one, wasn't it? I can't remember. Slytherin was the bad ones. I can't even remember what Harry was in now. And then there was Hufflepuff, which was kind of the non-entity. I think he'd be in Hufflepuff. I'm digressing now, aren't I? What I'm going to do is I'm going to wish you a good weekend. The weather is glorious here. That's the walk where I've just come down. That's my dog sat waiting to go back. He's already too warm. Enjoy the weather. We've not had much of a summer, and I really do think it's going to be a fantastic weekend. And hopefully in a week's time, we'll be talking about new signings and we can keep that positivity going, because positivity breeds positivity. And I know people will always have an opinion, and people are more than welcome to voice it. I'll voice mine when I'm not overly happy or when I'm not overly comfortable. But the fact of the matter is, nobody can judge until the ball's kicked. Not really. So have a good weekend. Stay safe and take care. Bye.